I'd like to do a little video about might and right. And the three people in history that I'm going to speak of is King David, which represents might. You have Moses, which represents right. And then you have Theodore Herzl, which blends both of them together. So, as far as King David, it's funny. I had just last week at work. I'm not going to say where I work at and who I spoke to or whatever, but I never do that in my videos. But I will say a woman at work had commented to me that and she was kidding, of course, okay, but anyway, but she had said to me that the Syrian that I work with, that I always refer, not always, but when I do refer to him in my videos, he is from Syria, he is Muslim, and, he comes over to the house once in a while. I'm cautious of him in a lot of ways, but we still associate with each other outside of work to a degree. And then at work, we work very well together. So, but anyway, she was kidding about that this guy, that the Syrian Muslim, and now he's naturalized in America about 15, 20 years ago. But anyway, she was kidding that the Syrian Muslim is actually King David, and I'm like, and then I respond by, no, he is absolutely. I said to her, no, he is King Arab maybe, but he is definitely not a King David. And she was quieted down because she knows I'm Jewish, and she's like, and she's not Jewish. And she's like, oh, what did I just say? Did I offend him? Is this harassment? And, I'm not going to take it really like that. But I just wanted to make it a point to her that, no, a Syrian Muslim is definitely not King David. In fact, there is no Muslim out there like King David that will never be like King David and could never dream of being like King David. No Syrian and any of those characters, unless you're Jewish. And the chances of another Jew becoming a King David is, I don't know. Netanyahu probably comes pretty close to that. Bibi, maybe as close as you're going to get to a King David. And then I would say Ariel Sharon was like a King David before he went out of his mind and gave up all his convictions and values and gave the Gaza Strip away, which eventually put him in a coma and he wound up dead. So he went against all his convictions. But I would say Netanyahu is probably the closest you're going to get to a King David in our time. And why I say that, and I'm going to put this as just a side note, and that is, a lot of people say, that Jesus was the king of the Jews, which is absolutely fucking full shit. He gets 2 thumbs down on me. I don't care if he's Jewish or not. He gets 2 fucking thumbs down on me because a king, a Messiah or a Mashiach, what a Mashiach is it's anointed one in the sense that it's a king. Now, there have been many messiahs or many Mashiachs that have existed after King David. Now, King David can be considered a messiah to a degree. Pretty damn close to one anyway. He probably really is, but I'm not a rabbi, so I'm not going to really interpret all that. But I would say he's the closest to a Messiah you're ever going to get. As far as Jesus is concerned, he was not a Messiah. He was a fucking pussy. Hopefully I don't offend anybody out there that are non-Jews, but it's what he is. He's a wimp. He's a fucking pussy. And, you know, he was so farthest from being a Messiah to the Jewish people at the time, especially with the high priesthood, that they were like, "Oh, you fucking kidding me? Go play in the fields. You know, go play in the fields. You know, get some weak followers after you, people that can be brainwashed easily, because we don't buy that shit." A Messiah is someone that that brings in those prophecies of the Isaiah. Now, not that I believe in all that stuff, okay? But I'm just saying what the Old Testament, what the Tanakh, or what the Hebrew Bible dictates in those prophecies in Isaiah is that everyone will have peace, will have no more stealing, no more killing, we will all live under one God, or Hashem. We will have no more wars, no more stripes, no more conflicts. Everything will be at peace and be love and all that good stuff, right? And, you know, as far as Jesus is concerned, he did not bring that. In fact, he actually brought more strife, more conflict, and more wars to the world. So, you know, you ever hear of the Crusaders? Knights, Templars, all these characters. They're all Christian. They're all very religious, and they all basically follow the Jesus Christ. You know, the Jesuits, all these characters. I mean, and I'm not just picking on those characters. There's a slew of characters in Jesus' time and thereafter that created wars and havoc and all this shit. So if Jesus Christ was the Messiah, there would have been peace on earth from Jesus' time onward. Do you see any peace? Just look at the Middle East. That's far from being peaceful. Okay, so I know as a Jew, and anyone in their right mind who is reasonable and can accept reality for what it is, Jesus did not fulfill the prophecies in the Isaiah, and therefore he is not the Messiah. Okay? Now, back to what I'm talking about here with King David. King David was probably the closest you're going to get to being a Messiah. And what I like about King David is that he didn't take any shit from anyone. And plus, you know, he had a kingdom. You know, he was a big honcho. You know, he was a you know, tough guy. You know. And, you know, David, like it says here, David conquers the Jebusite fortress of Jerusalem and makes it his capital. And that's the problem, like even today in Israel, in modern day Israel, Jerusalem is the capital. And you got the fucking UN and all these other assholes that say it's an international zone and all that shit, but it actually has this symbolic, and not only symbolic, but to Jews that are religious, it's very real. And it's in King David's time, Jerusalem was the capital, and therefore today in modern Israel, Jerusalem is the capital. So, you know, but what I liked about King David was he didn't take any shit from anyone, and he was the side of the Jew that, you know, you didn't fuck with. You didn't fuck like in other words, like when he went to war with people, you know, he'd fucking walk around with your head in his hand, you know, or you know he would slew your ass. You know, he fought many a battle and won, and in today's world, I mean, the IDF and the Mossad are some bad motherfuckers. Don't want to mess with the IDF. They are some seriously, I mean, they are some serious motherfuckers. You know, you think the fucking Pentagon is badass? Fucking IDF is fucking probably 10 times as badass as fucking Pentagon can ever dream of. And they're just a small little country with not as big a military. But their intelligent strategy is what makes them top notch. As far as I'm concerned, they're much better than the fucking Pentagon. And the other thing is that most Jews, if not all Jews, I should say all Jews, there might maybe 0.1% that do not, but I would say 99.8% of the Jews, or 99.9% of the Jews, still strategize, but they do it legally. Meaning that if there's a problem, they're going to take your fucking ass to court. They're not going to fucking take your head off. They're not going to beat you up. They're going to take you to court, and they're going to fucking win. And that's through also the intelligence strategy. And that is a very, in a court of law, there's order, right, and justice and all that. But mainly there's order through the judge, of course, right? But believe it or not, from the Jewish perspective, we can be some badass motherfucking assholes in a court of law, all within the legal guidelines, all within the legality. So, that in that sense, we're just as badass as fucking King David in a court of law in today's world. So, I'm always 2 thumbs up with King David. I think King David was like he was like the baddest ass in all of Judaism since Abraham. I mean, he was just one badass motherfucker. I mean, I completely admire the guy, completely adore the guy, and not only, I understand, he's religious and all that, but leave that aside, as a Jew, he was just one bad motherfucker you didn't want to fuck with. So, 2 thumbs up for King David. I just will always love and adore King David, regardless if I'm religious or not. I'm not religious. I'm far from religious. But I still admire him. I adore him. And I love him to death. I mean, this guy, to me, was the answer to all the problems that the Jews in the world at that time were going through. And he was just like, look, kick some ass, answer questions later. That's the type of guy he was. He didn't take any shit from no one. You fuck with him, and you're going to be fucking hurting. Not only physically, but also mentally. And so that's the great thing I like about King David. He had that hard side to him that Jews do have. But like I say, like 99.9% of the Jews that have that, well, instead of taking your head off or something, or fighting you in the street, they'll just take your ass to fucking court. And then as far as the physical aspect of it, if you provoke Israel enough, because Israel is very tolerant in a lot of things, like rockets coming from Gaza and all that shit. But when enough is enough, as the saying goes within the Jewish culture, when enough is enough, that fucking IDF is going to come out of the woodwork and beat your fucking ass inside out. And so that comes from the side of King David. That's King David ingrained in every fucking Jew. You either do it through a court of law, or you do it through the IDF in war. And that's fucking a strain of us that comes from King David. I think King David was very much a fucking king. He was a king with a capital K. He was one bad motherfucker. So he was definitely the might of the Jewish people from the ancient Israel to fucking today in modern Israel, modern day Israel. Now, the next guy is fucking Moses. Now, I love Moses. I think Moses was a bad motherfucker. He was a bad motherfucker, but he was mainly the law. He was the legality of it. He was the right. He was the right of it. He was into the law. And when I think of when I have a problem in life, and it rises to the level of legality, or rises to the level of a judicial proceeding, that's when the Moses in me kicks into place. And I mean, without Moses, Judaism wouldn't be the way it is. Actually, without Moses, there would absolutely be no Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible. There would be absolutely no Torah if it wasn't for Moses. And all the laws, basically, I mean, there's laws throughout the entire Old Testament, but the gist of the laws are in the first 5 books. And Moses is the quote-unquote author of those 5 books. And he wrote the law for Judaism. And I think he was badass. I mean, I don't buy the concept that, he parted the Red Sea and, and all this other shit, But nevertheless, as far as the legality of it is concerned, as far as law is concerned, always 2 thumbs up in my book. I think Moses is one bad motherfucker when it comes to the law. And I get a lot of that also passed on through my mother and father to me. And that is, when I have a problem, I don't do what King David does and go to war. No, I take your ass to court. And that's what Moses, that strain that comes through all of the generations since Moses' time into modern day times, modern day Jews, we think in those terms. That is passed on. That is we're conditioned that way. We are, you want to call it brainwashed? I think it's brainwashed in a very good way, though. But we're conditioned. We are raised in that culture of being another Moses, so to speak. That is, apply the law whenever possible, whenever applicable. When you need to apply it, do so. And the person that I thank very dearly in the Jewish culture is Moses. Moses is the one that started that whole legality aspect of Judaism. And so always 2 thumbs up for Moses. I mean, I always admire him. I adore him. I love him. I mean, I think he was a great guy. I mean, I don't go through the Red Sea and all that shit, But still, he was just one bad motherfucker. But he wasn't physical about it. He was legal about it. He did everything legally. Everything in law. He was just a great, great, great man. Just like King David was a great, great man with might, Moses was a great, 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 great man with the law, or with right. Which brings me to Theodor Herzl. Theodor Herzl, he gets a lot of bad press, especially from the non-Jewish people, because he started the whole Zionist movement. Actually, Zionism was sort of thrown around a little bit before he sort of solidified it. But when he solidified it after the Alfred Dreyfus trial. And with the Alfred Dreyfus trial, what happened there was this. Read just a little bit of it. I'm not going to go into too much of it, but just a little tiny bit. The Dreyfus affair was a political scandal that from its beginning in 1894 divided France until it was finally resolved in 1906. The scandal began in December 1894 with the treason conviction of Captain Alfred Dreyfus, a young French artillery officer of Jewish descent, sentenced to life imprisonment for allegedly communicating French military secrets to the German embassy in Paris. Dreyfus was imprisoned on Devil's Island in French Guiana, where he spent nearly 5 years. Just a little bit more and then I'll let it go. Evidence came to light in 1896 primarily through an investigation instigated by Georges Picquart, head of counter-espionage, identifying a French army major named Ferdinand Walsin, the last name is Esterhazy, as the real culprit. And so I'm not going to get too much into it. Anyway, eventually all the accusations against Alfred Dreyfus were demonstrated to be baseless. In 1906, Dreyfus was exonerated and reinstated as a major in the French army. He served during the World War I, ending his service with the rank of lieutenant colonel. What a colonel. I can't say certain words. He died in 1935. But anyway, the point with Theodor Herzl was that he thought that was a very what happened under the Dreyfus situation, under Alfred Dreyfus, it was a scourge against the Jewish people, and that he was sick and tired of the Jewish people being oppressed or being picked on or being slandered or whatever have you, being imprisoned for no reason, for being oppressed, for just a slew of fucking trials and tribulations against the Jewish people for no fucking basis, for no reason at all, except because they're anti-Jew, or some people say anti-Semitic, but I say anti-Jew. They're just people that just don't care for Jewish people, which everyone has a right to their opinion. If you don't like the Jewish people, that's fine. I always say, as long as you don't bop me over the head while you believe that way, you can believe whatever the fuck you like. You want to call me a Jaime, a kike, you want to call me, a money-hungry, greedy asshole? Fine with me. I really don't care. As long as you're not bopping me over the head while you're doing it. Now, so what Theodor Herzl was he was sick and tired of all this shit, and he decided to create a state of Israel, to create a state so the Jewish people can move out of Europe and into an area where they can take care of their own needs and wants, their own affairs, so to speak. And so he decided to create this thing called the Jewish state. And I actually have the old pamphlet. I have a 1904 first edition original pamphlet called the Jewish state. And I should go get it. I don't know. If you can give me 45 seconds, I will go get this damn thing. I will, if I can't find it, I hope I can find it. But just give me 45 seconds. 1 second, I'll be back. I'm back. I found it. Okay, here we are. Sorry about that. I should have had this ready, but anyway, here it is. Look at this. This is the original. It's yellowing as hell. It's yellowing. But it's called this is by Theodor Herzl, and it's called, man, it smells so dusty. Whew. Woo, that's so fucking dusty. It's called The Tragedy of Jewish Immigration. It's so fucking anyway, I don't know. I want to find this one part in here where he talks about might before right. I don't know if I can find this thing here. I should have had this ready before I did this video. Whew, man, that's dusty. Oh man, it's giving me it's gonna make me sneeze here in a minute. Anyway, I don't know if I could find this where it says might before right. Ah, fuck. Anyway, he says in the Jewish state, this is basically what this is. My eyes aren't the greatest anyway. But he talks about how there should be might before right. And that is, they shouldn't, the Jewish people shouldn't concern themselves so much with being right or morality. His thing is that it should be might, meaning that the Jewish people should, I can't find this thing. I should have had this ready. But anyway, this is the old pamphlet. Well, anyway, man, that's too dusty for me. Anyway, he believed that it should be might before right. See if they speak about it in here. 1 second here. Oh man, I should have had this ready because it really goes to my point of the video. But anyway. 1 second. All right, let me just do it this way here. 1 second. Just bear with me. Because it's a very good point, and it goes to the whole point. Alright. And, he was, Zionist is mainly basically based on the concept of lovers of Zion, but mainly is based on the Mount Zion. It just symbolizes that stuff. It's no like, plotting or anything, plot. But, oh man, I can't find this. It's a shame. Wait. One second. It's a shame I can't find this. I mean, it's a perfect. He basically says that. Well, I'm just going to say how he said it in the Jewish state is that he believed in might before right, meaning that the Jewish people has to grow some brass bowls and take the enemy or those that are anti-Jewish or those that start trouble with the Jewish people and don't take their shit like King David. So his thing was be like King David rather than Moses. Though he was still Moses, don't get me wrong, he still applied the law because that's how he eventually got the Jewish state the state of Israel, the Jewish state, is because he went through these congresses. It's called the Zionist Congress, the first Zionist Congress, second, third, whatever they were. And the thing is that they had these congresses that were eventually brought more and more people together. And eventually they were able to, through the British Parliament with Alfred Balfour, who was a lord out of the House of Lords in the British Parliament, they were able to slowly get a doctrine in place, which many know as the Balfour Declaration, which basically said there should be a Jewish homeland in the area of Damascus, in that area in the Middle East, around Damascus. And but in the beginning, it was just basically for religious rights, and but no political rights. And then eventually in the 20s, that started to change a bit more to political rights, which wind up, of course, pissing off the Arabs. Now, I talk about the Jewish-Arab history from the 1880s to the 1940s in another video, so you need to go watch that if you're interested in that. But anyway, it slowly started to turn more political and then wound itself throughout the League of Nations, through the British white papers and things of that nature, as far as populating that region around Damascus. more and more with Jewish people. And as time went by, finally when the UN kicked into place, through legality or through Moses, they were able to have a Jewish state. So what Theodor Herzl did was he combined, even though he said might before right, and he basically said you've got to, you got to take the bull by its horn, so to speak, and not let anyone run all over you. And even though he was thinking in terms of that way, like King David the might, he was also as Theodor Herzl, because he didn't live forever. What did he do? He died in 1904, and after 1904, there was still a Zionist Congress's organization that continued to go on, and they slowly worked the law. I mean, and he was educated in law. He was his education was in law anyway, from the University of Vienna. But anyway, that's basically what it was. So he believed it might be for right, but as time went on, it got more Moses rather than King David. Of course, it was a blend of both, because you had the I can't pronounce it, Haganah a group, you had the Stern group, you had the Ergen group, and these were the strong arms of the Jewish movement, so to speak, from the 1920s into the 1940s, and that's basically where the IDF and Mossad grew out of. Was the Ergen gang, the Haganah gang, and the not really gang, but they're considered a gang. They're portrayed as a gang throughout the internet, but they're really just a group of people. And so Ergen, Haganah, and the Stern groups, they basically wound up blending into the IDF, or really making the IDF what it is now, and as well as the Mossad. So, and that was a strong arm to the legality or to the right of what the Jewish people were doing from the early 1900s into the 1940s and thereafter. So what Theodor Herzl basically did was he combined the concept of might and right, and he didn't take any more shit from anyone. So that was his might, and then through congresses, through Zionist congresses and things of that nature, he slowly, and even after his death in 1904, like I said, those congresses continued on. There was like the Jewish Legion and things of that nature, and they slowly wound up getting the law to turn around into their favor. First really started with Alfred Balfour, and then it slowly worked its way into the UN, and then eventually into the State of Israel. So today in the State of Israel, the modern day State of Israel in 2015, is pretty much what Theodor Herzl wanted. That is, that he wanted the legality of it, but he also wanted might. In other words, in order to protect the Jewish people in the State of Israel, you must have a strong army, you must have a strong arm. And that comes from the IDF and also from the intelligence. Like in America, you have the CIA. In Israel, you have the Mossad. In America, you have the Pentagon. In Israel, you have the IDF. And so Herzl, he didn't get to live to see it, but eventually the might, and that is, which equals the IDF, and then you could say the right equals the laws that are on the books throughout the State of Israel. And they have courts. They have a court system. They have a Congress, and of course the president or the prime minister abides by the laws as well. So there's a blend of King David and Moses. So you have King David, Moses, and then you have Herzl sort of at the top in a sense. So in the sense that he blended both of those people or those Jewish guys together. That is King David and Moses. So King David and Moses was blended together, which basically and finally wound up being the ultimate foundation of the state of Israel. So anyway, so I just wanted to do that. That's always when I think as myself as Jewish, I think myself in terms of King David and Moses. I mean, Abraham was our father of the Jews. A lot of people say, no, he wasn't. Yes, actually, he was the father of the Jews. He started the Jewish people onward. And he was about law too. Don't get me wrong. He did some, covenant and circumcision and all that stuff, But that was more religious. It wasn't really codified until Moses came along. It wasn't really put together, the laws, until Moses came along. And so between, as far as being a Jewish person, between King David being, take no shit from anyone, and then to apply Moses in those, I'm not going to take any shit from you, and that is, I'll just take your ass to court and use the law to receive justice. Between that balance there of King David and Moses, that's what really makes the Jewish people who they are, of course, myself included. And Theodor Herzl was the guy at the top. This tended to wind up trying to round that out and blend it all together. And then the followers after Theodor Herzl also did the same thing, which eventually gave you the state of Israel. Blended the might and the right together. So you have the IDF that if they have a problem in Israel, IDF kicks into place and kicks the holy shit out of your ass through the might. And then when there's any kind of conflicts or disagreements or problems or conflicts or whatever in Israel, then you have the right or you have the law or the courts in Israel to take care of business that way as far as legality is concerned. So it's a great blend of everything. And so that's why I will always admire and adore and love to the day I die King David and Moses, because without these two guys in the past, there would be hardly any Jewish identity, I should say. There's not, if you take those two out of the picture, we have other Jewish leaders throughout the ancient Israel that we can admire and love and all that other stuff. Don't get me wrong, and emulate and be conditioned by or admire and adore and love as well. But as far as I'm concerned, as a Jewish guy, when I think of being Jewish, I think in terms of King David and Moses, hands down. Abraham too. The guy was a good guy. I love Abraham. He's Bernie Sanders is sort of like Abraham to me. In a sense. He's just like this old guy. And he's just I don't know. That's what just came to mind. I'm not saying that Bernie Sanders is as good as Abraham, of course, but it just sort of reminds me of that. When I think of Abraham, I think of this old Jewish guy that didn't want any problems and came up with this great idea of monotheism and that loved his own people, and he loved his wife and Sarah, and moved the Jewish people forward, started the Jewish people, and they went forward from there. And so it sort of reminds me of a Bernie Sanders. I don't know why that came to mind. But anyway, forget about that. Anyway, but outside of Abraham, like he's sort of like, he's like a dead heat with King David and Moses. Don't get me wrong. But as far as my identity, as far as being Jewish, in other words, I feel extremely secure, extremely, in the ultimate extreme, confident as a Jewish person when I think of King David and Moses. When I have those two people in my mind and I'm thinking of them, I'm one bad motherfucker. You can't fuck with me. Sorry about that. Not that I'm going to do anything King David will do, but I will do something that Moses did and take your ass to court. But I'm pretty much the type of guy that when enough is enough is enough. You understand? I mean, I could tolerate all kinds of shit. I'm that way. And most Jews, like 99.9% of the Jews out there, are that way. We can tolerate all kinds of shit. But when enough is enough, holy shit, then we're some mean, badass motherfucking, and we will win. We will win. We're funny that way. I don't know where we get that from. And you wouldn't even think of it, you know? You wouldn't even think like, what's that Jewish guy you think is going to win? Well, we do. No, I mean, it's not foolproof, you know? I'm sure, you know, like Alan Dershowitz to me is like the modern day Jew. Yeah, really. Alan Dershowitz to me is the modern day Moses. He's the modern day Moses, Alan Dershowitz. And I'm sure Alan Dershowitz lost some cases in his life. Maybe not a lot. Probably maybe 1% of his cases he lost, or I don't know what his percentage is. But I'm sure he lost some cases. But overall, as far as in the majority end of it, that is, for most of his cases he won. And that's how Jewish people are. You put a Jewish person in a court of law and he shines. He automatically comes alive. Yeah, it's just like, boom, like a light went off in his head. It's like automatic. That's why I'm not going to go into the specifics, but when I served on the jury, it was a criminal jury, my head just like lit up. I was like, wow, this is home. I mean, I would like to have them call me again. I don't know if they will. They probably were stunned by how I handled myself in the court of law. I don't know. But what I'm saying is I feel very much at home in a court of law. That is when I'm on the jury. I mean, it's not so much that I enjoy going through that process. Like I take a pleasure in it because you actually either, if it's criminal, you have to maybe even sentence someone, you know, or if it's civil trial, you might wind up, you know, the guy might wind up owing millions of dollars and you can bankrupt them. I mean, so I don't take it like, you know, it's a joyride or anything. But nevertheless, when I was on that jury, I was very at ease with myself. I was relaxed. It was like the place to be. It was like at the beach on a sunny day. You know, I'm serious. It was like at the Atlantic City beach as a 7-year-old kid playing in the sand. That's how at ease I was on that jury. And I felt very at ease. And I'm sure every Jew that does jury duty feels very at ease with himself. Because everything falls into place. And that's why you have a lot of Jewish lawyers. Because they feel everything falls into place. I mean, I'm a paralegal. I'm not certified. But I'm a paralegal. Never did anything with it, of course. And because I don't like the politics and all the bullshit. And the intensity of the situation. I don't like all that shit. And I could have been a great lawyer if I wanted to. A great lawyer. I would have been, man. I would have been like Alan Dershowitz. If I was educated properly when I was young, when I was 18 or 17 and a half, I would have been probably better than Alan Dershowitz. I would have kicked his ass, actually. No offense there, Alan. I mean, I love you, but, you know, I probably if I was educated properly, like went to Yale or Columbia or University of Pennsylvania, I always wanted to go to University of Pennsylvania Law School. Never was going to happen. But, I mean, just as a complete fantasy. But if I had my choice back in those days, I mean, looking back on it now, yeah, University of Pennsylvania Law School, to me, is, you know, you always think of Harvard Law School, Yale Law School, Columbia Law School, Princeton, or you think of Rutgers or things of that nature, right? But I think, and not many people talk about it, but University of Pennsylvania Law School is one badass fucking thing. So I would love to have gone to that school, and then and maybe finished it out in either Columbia or Princeton. Princeton is like really the top. To me, in my own book, Princeton is better than fucking Harvard and Yale put the fuck together. Yeah, that's how badass Princeton is, in Princeton, New Jersey. That's a badass school. I mean, you have to have a grade point average of like 3.5 and over, some shit, to even maintain any kind of, to have even one class, to have one credit hour. I mean, yeah, I consider Princeton like the top dog. I think Princeton's better than Columbia, better than even University of Pennsylvania. I mean, Princeton is, to me, anyway. But, you know, what do I know, right? But Princeton is like the ultimate as far as schooling is concerned, okay? So anyway, enough of that. But, yeah, I mean, the point is that I feel very at ease being on that jury because I feel, because I'm Jewish, because I feel at ease with the law. Understand? As long as it's not nasty politics and all that other bullshit that comes into that, I'm very, very at ease with myself. And that's because I'm Jewish, and that's because of Moses. And that's that ingrained, conditioned, and you're going to say, yeah, what the fuck is he talking about? Well, only a Jew would understand what I'm talking about. Anyone that lasted this long in this video is Jewish, probably. I would say if anyone watches this video, I would say the ones that lasted to the end were Jewish. There might be some non-Jews that are curious as to what a Jew is, so maybe they'll last to the end of the video. But if a Jew so happens to click onto this video, they will watch it to the end. Because another Jew understands exactly my way of thinking. Absolutely, hands down, 100%, 1000%. We all think this way. Why? Because it's passed on from generation to generation to generation to generation to generation throughout all these thousands of years, and it started with Moses into King David, and then eventually into the Jewish people to today. We were conditioned that way. That is the way it works, especially when your mother and father are both Jewish. Now, like when your mother is Jewish and your father is not Jewish, even though these days you're supposed to be, well, you know, Jewish, I would prefer to have it so both your parents are Jewish. I feel much more secure with you as a Jew. But if your father's non-Jewish and your mother's Jewish, I guess. And then if your mother's non-Jewish and your father's Jewish, that hurts even worse. But if your both parents are Jewish, then you're okay in my book. It's that easy. I feel very secure that way. I'd rather have it like as a whole package. Regardless if you're religious or not, regardless if you're atheist or not, I don't give a shit. As long as both your parents are Jewish, I feel extremely secure. In other words, if there was a trench in times of war, and we were in that trench together, and the guy sitting next to me, or the guy with the gun, and we're fighting the enemy, is both his parents were Jewish, I feel very secure with him. If his mother was Jewish and his father was non-Jewish, I probably feel pretty secure with him. If his mother was non-Jewish and his father was Jewish, I'd be in trouble. I'd be in a lot of fucking trouble. Real lot of fucking trouble. So that's the whole thing with that. Anyway, this video went much longer than I wanted. But anyway, the conditioning through the family setting, through your family, throughout the generations, thousands of years, from King David, well, of course, Abraham, can't leave him out, but still, in the context of this video, from King David to Moses to the modern day Jew today, you take King David and Moses out of the picture, and of course we'll still be Jewish, but we'll be somewhat lost. We would be lost. We'd still be lost. Be very lost. In fact, I think we wouldn't even have a state of Israel. I don't think so. But if you took King David and Moses out of the picture. And if you did have a state of Israel, it would be very weak. Because any Jew, I don't know who you are, when a Jew thinks of King David and Moses, we're unstoppable. We're some badass motherfuckers. You don't want to fuck with us. I can promise you. You just don't want to fuck with us. And I'm not as a threat or anything. I don't mean that, of course. But I'm just saying, in a court of law, you don't want to fuck with us. On the war fields of around the state of Israel, don't want to fuck with the state of Israel. Because we're badass motherfuckers. With King David and Moses alongside of each other in our brains. We're tough. We're tough. We'll just kick your ass. And I don't mean that in a physical sense. I'm not a physical person. I'm quite pacifist. I only had one fight in my life, and it was with boxing gloves, actually. And I lost. I lost with boxing gloves. I was like a 12-year-old kid, 13-year-old kid. I lost with boxing. I used to tease this kid at school, and I used to tease him to the point that he wound up getting so pissed off one day that he came and wrestled me to the ground, almost kicked my ass in. And the teacher said, "No, this is what we're going to do it. You want to fight? Put the gloves on." So we put the gloves on, and I'm standing there like this with my gloves. And the teacher says, I can't remember what he says, but something like, "Go," time to start the fight. And so I'm standing there, let's say he says go. So I'm standing there with my boxing gloves, and teacher says, "Go." And within less than a half a second, the other kid punched me in the face. I didn't even get to think what to do. So I'm no physical person. That was the first and last fight I ever had. I don't even know if it was a fight. I don't know what you can call that fucking thing. But I've never been physical like that. I've always stayed out of those types of situations. I've always I just don't enter those types of situations. I don't put myself into a situation like that, so it becomes physical. But I will take your ass to court, though. Legally, I will nail your ass that way. As long as politics. As long as dirty politics, administrators, and all these other assholes don't get into the middle of it, I will kick your ass in a court of law. Absolutely, hands down. If there was no politics, and no getting even with me for some political bullshit years ago in my past, and just basically politics. You can leave the politics out of it, administrators pulling bullshit deals on the side and making, agreements on the side or whatever the fuck, and just played it by the law and the facts. That's all I asked for. You played it by the law and you played it by the facts, I'd win every fucking case. Absolutely. Every fucking case, I'd win. Absolutely. And that's because of Moses and, of course, King David as well, but mainly Moses, because of that law that's ingrained into my head. That's the way I think. I think that way. I've thought of that way since I was, since the summer of 71. I won't go into all that, but I was thinking in terms, I was young, of course, but I was still thinking in terms of right, meaning the situation that I'm in is not right. And though I didn't pursue it legally because I was only a 12-year-old, I knew that what the situation at Estelle, just throw that out real quick and I'll not going to go into any of that. But at Estelle Manor, what happened there was I reacted because I believed it was wrong, or I believed it was not right. And that comes from Moses. Of course, politicians didn't like it at all. But that's beside the point. So it's always been ingrained in my head, even before 12 years old. I've always been this way, and that's because I'm Jewish. That's the Jewish culture. That's basically the Jewish mentality. That's the Jewish mentality. So anyway, now that this video went on way longer, I only wanted this video to be like 10, 15 minutes long. Went way too long. Anyway, I'm going to let go of the video and say 2 thumbs up for King David, 2 thumbs up for Moses, and even 2 thumbs up for Theodor Herzl. And all 3 of these guys are some of the greatest leaders that the Jewish people ever had. And on that note, you guys have a good one. Bye.